When a police officer spotted a wounded German shepherd weeping at a gravestone in the snow, he froze in disbelief. This wasn't just any dog. It was a K9 that had vanished years earlier. What the officer uncovered about its past left him shaken, and millions who heard the story cried. Snowflakes drifted lazily from the dark sky, blanketing the cemetery in a haunting silence. Officer Daniel walked the ground slowly, his breath rising in white clouds as his boots crunched over fresh snow. It was supposed to be a routine patrol, nothing more, but then he saw it. Near one of the older gravestones, a shape stirred against the white. At first, Daniel thought it was a stray animal seeking shelter. Yet as he drew closer, the dim beam of his flashlight revealed something that made his heart seize. A German shepherd, large, battered, and shivering, lay pressed against the stone, the dog's eyes lifted weakly, glistening with something more than pain. Its body bore fresh wounds, but its gaze was fixed only on the grave marker it refused to leave. Daniel's breath caught as he drew nearer. The German shepherd didn't growl, didn't bare its teeth like most strays would. Instead, it let out a low, mournful whimper, its head resting against the cold stone as if it belonged there. Snow clung to its fur, melting into small patches of blood where fresh cuts marred its body. The officer's eyes dropped to the gravestone. The name etched into it sent a chill down his spine. It was a fallen officer's resting place, a man killed in the line of duty years ago. But why would a dog be here, clinging to it as though mourning? Daniel crouched down, speaking softly, his voice carried away by the wind. "Easy, boy. You're safe." The shepherd didn't move. It pressed its paw against the stone, claws scratching gently, as though trying to reach the one buried beneath. Something about the scene felt unnatural, almost sacred. This wasn't random behavior. This was grief, pure, unyielding grief. Daniel's chest tightened as he realized he wasn't just looking at an injured stray. He was witnessing a bond stronger than death itself, a dog's loyalty etched in the snow, unbroken by time or distance. Daniel knelt closer, the beam of his flashlight sweeping across the shepherd's trembling body. That's when he noticed it, faded leather hanging loosely around its neck. A collar, cracked and weather-worn, clung stubbornly to the dog's fur. His hands moved carefully, brushing away the snow until the faint outline of a tag appeared. The officer squinted, heart pounding. The letters were scratched, nearly unreadable, but one name burned clear enough to freeze him in place. Shadow. Daniel's mouth went dry. He had heard that name before, years ago, whispered in the halls of the precinct like the echo of a ghost. Shadow was the K9 partner of Officer James Carter, the very man buried beneath the gravestone. Both had been presumed lost during a chaotic raid. Carter's body had been found. The dog, however, vanished without a trace. Daniel staggered back, stunned. Could it be possible? After all these years, Shadow had returned, but not to a station, not to a home. He had come back to this grave, to the only partner he had ever known. The officer's throat tightened as realization sank in. This wasn't just chance. This was loyalty beyond human understanding. Daniel wasted no time. With trembling fingers, he pressed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Officer Daniel. I've found a K9. I think it's Shadow." Static filled the air before the operator responded, her voice laced with disbelief. "Shadow?" That unit was declared missing nearly 5 years ago. Each one approached cautiously, eyes wide as they took in the sight of the battered shepherd pressed against Carter's grave. Murmurs rippled through the group, disbelief giving way to a W. An older officer stepped forward, removing his cap. His voice cracked as he spoke. "I remember him. Shadow disappeared the night Carter died. We searched everywhere, forests, alleys, rivers. Nothing. We thought he was gone." His eyes shimmered as he looked at the dog. And yet, here he is. Where had Shadow been all this time? How had he survived the brutal winters, the years of wandering? And more haunting still, why return now, after so long, to this place of grief? Daniel's gaze lingered on the dog. He didn't have answers yet, but one thing was certain. This was only the beginning at the veterinary clinic. Shadow lay quietly on a blanket while doctors examined him. Their findings painted a grim story. His body carried scars, some healed long ago, others fresh and raw. His teeth were worn down from gnawing on bones and scraps. His stomach was empty, Yet his will to live had kept him alive. Years of wandering. One vet murmured, tracing the old scar along Shadow's flank. This dog has survived more than we can imagine. The room fell silent, each officer realizing the weight of those words. Witnesses slowly came forward as the story spread. A farmer swore he had seen a lone shepherd roaming his fields at night. A truck driver recalled spotting a dog on the highway shoulder, limping but determined. Each account ended the same. The dog vanished into the dark, always heading in the same direction. Back at the precinct, Daniel pieced it together. Shadow hadn't been wandering aimlessly. Every road, every path, every winter storm he braved had been leading him back here, to his partner's resting place. The truth was undeniable. For years, through hunger and pain, Shadow had carried only one mission: to find the grave of the man he refused to forget. That a week later, officers gathered at the cemetery once more. The snow had thinned, leaving patches of frozen earth around the gravestone of Officer James Carter. Shadow was brought carefully on a leash, though he hardly needed it. The moment he saw the familiar stone, his body trembled, and he pulled forward with a sudden burst of strength. Whimpers filled the air as Shadow reached the grave. He pressed his paws against the stone, his chest heaving with mournful cries. Then, slowly, he lowered his head and rested it gently against the cold granite, just as he had the night Daniel found him. The sight drew tears from hardened men who rarely showed emotion. One officer held out a photo of Carter in uniform. Shadow's ears perked, his eyes softening. He sniffed the image, then let out a long, heartbreaking howl that echoed across the cemetery. Daniel's throat tightened as he whispered, "He never forgot." In that moment, it was clear Shadow had not only found his way back. He had carried Carter's memory through every hardship, every lonely mile. Loyalty had brought him home, and grief had carved its place into his soul forever. In the days that followed, the precinct made a decision. Shadow was no longer just a stray returned from the shadows. He was family, a hero who had endured unthinkable years to honor his fallen partner. Officers took turns visiting him at the shelter, bringing treats, blankets, and the kind of affection he had long been denied. Soon after, the department held a small ceremony. Shadow was officially retired from service and placed into the care of Officer Daniel, who had first found him at the grave. The moment the papers were signed, Shadow leaned into Daniel's side, as though he already knew he was finally safe. The community rallied behind him. Donations poured in. Children drew pictures of the loyal dog, and a plaque was ordered to commemorate both Carter and Shadow, partners reunited in loyalty, even beyond death. Weeks later, Shadow lay curled by Daniel's fireplace, his chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. For the first time in years, he slept without the weight of wandering. His days of searching were over, but his story had only just begun to spread. News outlets shared his journey, calling him the dog who never forgot. Across the city, people spoke of Shadow as a symbol of loyalty that transcended time and loss. He wasn't just a K9 anymore. He was living proof that love doesn't end at the grave. At the cemetery, the plaque was unveiled. It bore Carter's name, alongside an inscription for Shadow, "Faithful until the end." Daniel stood with a hand on the shepherd's head, his voice low. "You carried his memory home. Now the world will carry yours." And to you watching, like, share, and subscribe. Stories like this remind us, true loyalty never dies.